In the heart of Manhattan stands a golden tower, a monument to one man's ambition that may soon become ground zero for global chaos. Behind its gleaming facade, a 920-page blueprint called Project 2025 threatens to reshape America's entire power structure.
Project 2025.
Project 2025.
Project 2025.
Trump's Project 2025.
The second Trump term would be more dangerous than the first, in part because of something called Project 2025, a plan to extend Trump's grip into every part of your life. That's why his inner circle, including more than 20 officials from his first term, have written a step-by-step playbook to make a second term brutally efficient. At nearly 1,000 pages, it's longer than most Stephen King novels, and a lot scarier.
With 4,000 waiting in the wings and plans to reclassify 50,000 federal employees, this isn't just another political transition. It's a calculated power grab of unprecedented scale.
Project 2025 would roll back our fundamental freedoms, undermine our democracy, and gut checks and balances.
So I think the size, scale, and sophistication of Project 2025 is unprecedented.
Consider these numbers: 7 decades of NATO alliance hanging by a thread, 3 major nuclear powers in an unstable dance of brinkmanship, and one leader poised to dramatically alter America's global stance. As thousands of career diplomats and military experts face replacement with loyal supporters, the world's most powerful nuclear arsenal could soon answer to a streamlined command structure with fewer checks and balances. From the systematic dismantling of international alliances to the weaponization of America's $23 trillion economy, the dominoes are aligned. The blueprint is written. The players are in position, and for the first time in modern history, the unthinkable becomes possible. World War III, orchestrated not through miscalculation but by design. This isn't just another political thriller, it's a wake-up call written in the ink of our possible future. A golden tower reaches toward the Manhattan sky, symbolizing one man's endless ambition. Long before the gleaming tower bore his name, a young Donald Trump watched his father Fred build an empire in the outer boroughs of New York. In Queens and Brooklyn, Fred Trump's real estate kingdom grew, teaching his son lessons about power, influence, and the art of the deal. But for Donald, the outer boroughs were never enough. He yearned for Manhattan, for the spotlight, for something greater than real estate. In the 1980s, as his towers rose in Manhattan, Trump began floating the idea of political power. He took out full-page ads in newspapers, appeared on talk shows, and tested the waters of public opinion.
For some people, the ultimate goal in life has been becoming the President of the United States. Would you like to be the President of the United States?
I really don't believe I would, Rona, but I would like to see somebody as the President who could do the job, and there are very capable people in this country.
Each media appearance, each controversy, each headline was a calculated step. The presidency wasn't just another business venture. It became an obsession, a validation he craved more than any real estate deal. Now, Donald Trump sits in his office, but he's not just planning real estate deals anymore. He's reviewing Project 2025, the most comprehensive plan to reshape the American government in modern history. This isn't speculation.
This is a great group, and they're going to lay the groundwork and detail plans for exactly what our movement will do and what your movement will do when the American people give us a colossal mandate to save America. And that's coming. That's coming.
The Heritage Foundation, together with Trump's team, has already assembled a 920-page blueprint for his return to power. They've gathered over 4,000 personnel ready to transform the federal government. Think that's just bureaucratic reshuffling? Think again. Project 2025 will become Trump's weapon for dismantling the traditional checks on presidential power.
One of the things that's interesting about Project 2025 is the tone. You hear the term woke mentioned dozens of times, radical mentioned dozens of times. It's remarkably driven by culture war politics.
The plan targets key institutions crucial to preventing global conflict: the State Department, Defense Department, and intelligence agencies. Trump's team will replace career diplomats and military experts with loyalists who share his America First vision.
A concentration not just of power, but a concentration of radical leftist ideology in these employees. Hopefully we will see over the next 10 to 20 years the elimination of entire cabinet departments.
Let's break this down. The project calls for unprecedented executive control over foreign policy. Trump will gain new powers to impose sanctions, withdraw from treaties, and deploy military forces without traditional oversight.
To give a sense of how radical this is, the FBI is an organization that has never been run by a Democrat. And so this is an organization that in its bones is a fairly conservative organization, and where now you have right-wing voices saying that it should be eliminated.
Every agency head will be pre-vetted to ensure they support his vision of American dominance. The most dangerous aspect? Project 2025's Schedule F executive order.
Schedule F is originally an executive order that Trump signed that would allow him to turn thousands of career civil servants into political appointees that he could then fire if they displeased him in any way, and then have to be more responsive to a president who in the past has shown a willingness to fire people for disloyalty rather than for competence.
It will reclassify up to 50,000 federal employees, making them easier to replace with Trump loyalists.
We've recruited Americans all over the country, and so we've had well over 11,000 people who've applied to be considered by the next president and his administration. So we want these people who are competent, who have great credentials, to be prepared for the specific job that they will have.
Imagine critical defense and diplomatic decisions being made by people chosen for loyalty rather than expertise.
Trump really emphasizes loyalty, and you see those practices now being adopted by Project 2025, where you fill out a form that essentially indicates if you are loyal to President Trump or not.
But here's what keeps military strategists awake at night. The project includes plans to restructure America's nuclear command system, giving Trump more direct control over nuclear weapons.
What Project 2025 articulates is the idea that the president should be the one directing the activities of the Department of Justice, even if that means that the president will not be investigated, or that the DOJ will be sent to attack the president's political enemies.
The same man who once asked why America couldn't use nuclear weapons will have fewer institutional restraints. Watch as Trump transforms America's global presence. Project 2025 calls for reducing U.S. involvement in international organizations while building stronger ties with authoritarian regimes. The plan explicitly labels NATO as obsolete and suggests reviewing all military commitments to allies. Think about this. What happens when a president with authoritarian tendencies gains unprecedented control over America's military and diplomatic machinery?
Project 2025 assumption is that the president has something called unitary executive authority. This gives him enormous untested powers to essentially do whatever he wants and reduces the power of Congress to check those powers.
Project 2025 isn't just a reorganization plan. It's a blueprint for dismantling the safeguards that prevent global conflict. The world is about to witness something unprecedented. A U.S. president with both the tools and the inclination to reshape global order through force.
We will root out the communists, Marxists, fascists, and the radical left thugs that live like vermin within the confines of our country. I will immediately reissue my 2020 executive order restoring the president's authority to remove rogue bureaucrats, and I will wield that power very aggressively.
And trust me, when the history of World War III is written, Project 2025 will be seen as where it all began.
Project 2025 will destroy America. Look it up.
Did America just vote to end democracy? Who knows, except those in office. NATO isn't just an alliance.
It's a political and military alliance between North America and Europe that was born out of World War II and signed into effect in 1949.
It's the war that's kept World War III at bay for 7 decades.
its main aim back then to push back against any future aggression from the Soviet Union.
But Trump, he sees it differently. To him, it's just another bad deal that needs renegotiating or demolishing. His return to power will mark the beginning of NATO's darkest hour. The threats will start immediately. Pay up or we're out, he'll declare. But this time, he'll mean it.
NATO was busted until I came along. I said, everybody's going to pay. They said, well, if we don't pay, are you still going to protect us? I said, absolutely not. They couldn't believe the answer. I came in, I made a speech, and I said, you got to pay up. They asked me that question. One of the presidents of a big country stood up and said, well, sir, if we don't pay and we're attacked by Russia, will you protect us? I said, you didn't pay? You're delinquent? He said, yes, let's say that happened. No, I would not protect you. In fact, I would encourage them to do whatever the hell they want. You got to pay. You got to pay your bills.
European leaders will watch in horror as America's commitment to collective defense crumbles under Trump's relentless assault.
The European Union is possibly as bad as China, just smaller. Well, I think we have a lot of foes. I think the European Union is a foe, what they do to us in trade. Now, you wouldn't think of the European Union, but they're a foe.
Picture the scene. It's late 2025, and Trump stands at a podium in Warsaw. The world expects reassurance about America's commitment to European security. Instead, he questions why American troops should die defending countries that don't pay their fair share. The Baltic states will shudder. Putin will smile. This isn't just about money anymore. It's about trust. Every time Trump praises Putin while attacking NATO allies, another crack appears in the alliance. Every time he questions America's commitments, another authoritarian regime sees an opportunity.
Putin is saying, oh, they're going to sanction me. They've sanctioned me for the last 25 years. You mean I can take over a whole country and they're going to sanction me? You mean they're not going to blow us to pieces, at least psychologically? The problem is not that Putin is smart, which of course he's smart, but the real problem is that our leaders are dumb. Dumb. So dumb.
The consequences will ripple across continents. Japan and South Korea will watch nervously. If Trump abandons Europe, are they next? Taiwan will strengthen its defenses, knowing that American protection is no longer guaranteed.
The U.S. is legally committed to supporting Taiwan's defense, but many fear Trump may not.
With Mr. Trump, we get more unpredictability, of course, and that creates anxiety and concern. He's also talked about defense and how the United States gets nothing back for its underpinning Taiwan's security.
Each uncertainty creates new vulnerabilities. What's truly frightening isn't just Trump's hostility toward NATO, it's his fundamental misunderstanding of why it exists. He sees it as a protection racket rather than a shield against global conflict.
We're paying for far too much. NATO is helping Europe more than it's helping us. Our allies have taken advantage of us more so than our enemies.
And that blindness, it's exactly what America's adversaries have been waiting for. Remember this moment. When future historians write about how World War III began, they'll point to Trump's systematic dismantling of the Western alliance. The only question is, will anyone be able to stop him before it's too late? Power recognizes power. Trump's second term will bring a fundamental shift in American diplomacy, one that favors strongmen over democratic allies. The world will watch as the leader of the free world dances with dictators. His admiration for Putin will evolve into something more dangerous, a partnership that undermines global stability.
In any democratic system of government, you need nonpartisan civil servants whose job it is to follow and implement the law. A lot of that stuff is technical. Trump doesn't like this. Neutral rules of governance obstruct his ability to govern like a kind of machine politician who uses government as a tool of rewarding his friends and punishing his enemies. That's why he hates what he calls the deep state.
Demolish the deep state. Obliterate the deep state. Dismantle the deep state.
We could be in a world where very swiftly.
Finally, I will push a constitutional amendment to impose term limits on members of Congress. This is how I will shatter the deep state and restore government that is controlled by the people and for the people. Thank you very much.
Putin and I understand each other, Trump will boast at press conferences, while Russian troops mass at European borders. Each praise, each friendly call will signal America's changing loyalties.
I said, this is genius. Putin declares a big portion of the Ukraine. Putin declares it as independent. Oh, that's wonderful. So Putin is now saying it's independent, a large section of Ukraine. I said, how smart is that? And he's going to go in and be a peacekeeper. That's the strongest peace force. We could use that on our southern border. That's the strongest peace force I've ever seen. There were more army tanks than I've ever seen. They're going to keep peace all right.
But it's not just Putin. Kim Jong-un will receive more love letters, each one weakening America's position in Asia. China's Xi Jinping will find a more accommodating White House, especially when discussing Taiwan. These aren't just diplomatic niceties, they're green lights for aggression. Trump will establish what he calls the Strong Leaders Summit, excluding traditional Democratic allies.
These are top-of-the-line people at the top of their game. President Xi is a brilliant man. If you went all over Hollywood to look for somebody to play the role of President Xi, you couldn't find it. There's nobody like that. The look, the brain, the whole thing. We had a great relationship. We got along so well. There was a great chemistry we had. Great. We talked about everything. A great chemistry. But people ask me, how smart is she? I said, top of the line. You never met anybody smarter. How smart is Kim Jong-un? Top of the line. You know, people say, oh, this and that. Really smart. You know, when you come out and as a young man at 24, 23, even though he sort of inherits it, most people, when they inherit, they lose it. And that's easy stuff. He took over a country of very smart people, very, very energetic people, very tough people, at a very young age, and he has total dominant control. That's not easy. These are very smart. Putin, very smart.
Imagine the scene. Trump, Putin, Xi, Kim, and other autocrats meeting to reshape the world order. No press allowed, no democratic oversight, just deals and handshakes that will determine the fate of nations. What happens in these meetings will terrify America's allies. Each time Trump emerges praising a dictator's strength, democratic nations will feel the chill. They'll watch as their most powerful ally transforms into something unrecognizable. A democracy that prefers dictators. The consequences will be immediate. Middle Eastern autocrats will crack down on dissent, knowing Trump won't object. European populists will grow bolder, sensing America's changing priorities. Each authoritarian success will breed more authoritarians. Think about this. When America's president openly admires dictators, what message does that send to the world? The answer will reshape global politics, and not in a way that promotes peace. Trade wars aren't just about tariffs. In Trump's hands, they'll become weapons of mass economic destruction. His return to power will signal the end of global free trade as we know it. The strategy will be simple, but devastating.
Some might say it's economic nationalism. I call it common sense.
First, target China with massive tariffs.
And I'm doing the same thing with China. We're going to tariff the hell out of them.
Then, hit European allies for unfair practices. Finally, demand new trade deals that put America first, or else. Each move will send shockwaves through the global economy.
Donald Trump has talked about tariffs, as you mentioned, as a solution to a string of problems, also saying during his campaign that tariffs would be a key source of revenue to pay for his agenda. Now, that could lead to a serious dent for average Americans. Trump has repeatedly promised to add universal 20% tariffs on all goods imported into the U.S., 60% tax on goods coming in from China, and we're talking about more than $3 trillion worth of goods being slapped with tariffs.
But here's what makes this time different. Trump's trade wars will align perfectly with his geopolitical goals. Want to weaken NATO? Target European industries.
Economists warn that Trump's tariffs will hurt Eurozone growth. adding to Europe's growing list of challenges. With China and the US both crucial trade partners, even a favorable US deal might backfire if it involves countering China, as this would once again hurt major exporters like Germany, who also have deep ties in Chinese markets.
Want to pressure Japan? Threaten their auto exports.
President-elect Trump is gearing up to end federal incentives that encouraged automakers to produce more electric vehicles. The move comes as automakers like Toyota are already scaling back EV production plans amid sagging consumer demand.
Economic warfare will become Trump's favorite tool of foreign policy.
To me, the most beautiful word, and I've said this for the last couple of weeks, in the dictionary today, and is the word tariff. It's more beautiful than love.
The global supply chains built over decades will begin to crack.
Countries are going to finally, after 75 years, pay us back for all that we've done for the world.
Countries will scramble to choose sides, stick with America's demands or seek new alliances with China and Russia. Trump's actions will force this choice, creating economic blocs that mirror growing political divisions. Watch as Trump uses America's economic power like a sledgehammer. Access to American markets will become a political weapon.
We could be in a world where very swiftly, because there are no legislative guardrails against this, what if the IRS is now a fully political agency and audits start coming in along political lines? Businesses or media organizations that are critical of Trump start being harassed using the tax code as a means of punishing them. Think about everything that you rely on government to do. And now imagine those tasks being bent towards political ends.
Allies who disagree with Trump's policies will face sudden trade barriers. Those who comply will receive preferential treatment. It's not diplomacy, it's economic strong-arming. The most dangerous part, this economic warfare will create desperation.
President Trump to really restart the whole discussion about using tariffs to achieve certain objectives, such as punishing other countries.
Countries cut off from traditional trading partners will seek new alliances. And who will be waiting with open arms? The very autocrats Trump admires. Remember, economic chaos often precedes military conflict. As Trump's trade wars escalate, he'll be setting the stage for something far worse. America will suffer as the world suffers as well.
They're not going to take this lying down. They're not going to change their behavior in some way to appease the administration that imposes such tariffs. They're going to retaliate. So not only will U.S. imports shrink, but U.S. exports will shrink as well.
It will begin quietly, a border skirmish here, a naval confrontation there. But under Trump's leadership, these isolated incidents will spiral into something unparalleled, the perfect storm for global conflict. Watch as the pieces fall into place. Russia, emboldened by Trump's NATO skepticism, will push further into Eastern Europe. China, sensing America's distraction, will increase pressure on Taiwan.
China's President Xi Jinping has pledged to reunify with Taiwan, using force if necessary. It regards it as a breakaway province. But Taiwan wants to maintain the status quo and its own government and military.
North Korea will test more missiles, each launch bringing us closer to catastrophe.
North Korea said it tested its most powerful ever intercontinental ballistic missile, or ICBM, on Thursday. State media KCNA reported that leader Kim Jong-un was on hand for the launch, which he was quoted as saying was a, quote, appropriate military action intended to demonstrate the North's, quote, counteraction will to its rivals. The test drew swift condemnation from the United States, Japan, and South Korea.
Trump's response to these crises will follow a dangerous pattern. First, dismiss allies' concerns. Then, praise the aggressor's strength. Finally, propose deals that reward bad behavior. Each cycle will encourage more aggression, more risk-taking, more brinkmanship. The flashpoints will multiply. Iran will block vital shipping lanes, knowing Trump's response will be confused and delayed.
Iran's Revolutionary Guards seized a cargo ship in the Strait of Hormuz on Saturday. Video, obtained by Reuters, showed a helicopter hovering over the vessel, which Iran said was linked with Israel. It comes days after Tehran said it could close the crucial shipping route and warned it would retaliate for a suspected Israeli attack on an Iranian consulate in Damascus.
Turkey will challenge Greek sovereignty in the Mediterranean. Each crisis will interlock with others, creating a web of conflicts that becomes impossible to untangle. But here's the truly frightening part. Trump's personality will make every crisis worse. His need for public victories will lead to rash decisions. His preference for deals over deterrence will encourage aggressors. His distrust of military advisors will leave America flying blind. And then, the final spark. Perhaps a miscalculation in the Taiwan Strait.
Once again, tension is high in the Taiwan Strait. China launching massive military exercises. Its army, navy and rocket forces encircling the self-governed island, simulating a blockade and drilling down on Taiwan's ports and releasing this video. The rhetoric is rising too. Taiwan says the action is irrational and provocative.
Maybe a clash between Russian and NATO forces. The specific trigger won't matter. What matters is that Trump's policies will have made conflict inevitable. The world will hold its breath, waiting for American leadership in the crisis. Instead, they'll get tweets, boasts, and confusion. And in that moment, everyone will realize the same thing. World War III won't start with a bang, but with a tweet.